This is going to be Corvette build series. Should be episode 7. I'm going to start tackling the suspension. I finally got the notification from Fortunato that my coilovers are going to ship early this week. Should put them here hopefully Friday this week. It's Monday, March 14th. So I'm going to go ahead and strip all the suspension, all the stock stuff off the Corvette, and get ready to put all this beautiful FDF race shop suspension on my car, along with my Fortunato 510 series coilovers that'll be here. I'm going to be running the FDF Fab Mega Manus kit in the front, and I have Josiah's dual rear caliper kit for the rear and his new adjustable upper control arms for the rear with toe gain control. So this is everything laid out on the table. I basically tried to get everything that FDF Fab had on their website. I've got Josiah's dual rear caliper kit. I've got Josiah's front Mega Manus kit. I have his hideaway handbrake system for a Corvette. I have their drill plate to convert my car over to 5x1 14.3. So we're going to start with ripping all the stock suspension off the car. This thing still has the leaf springs, stock GM control arms, and everything in it. We're going to rip all of that off the car, and then I'm going to start putting the FDF Fab stuff on. I'm going to do the front first, then I'll do the rear, and I'm going to walk you guys through how I set them up, what I do for alignments and specs and whatever, depending on track layouts and stuff, and kind of show you my experience with the FDF Fab kits. I've done probably in the neighborhood of like 50 or 60 cars now that I've done either the Mega Manus kit or the Mini Manus kit on either a 350Z Corvette or something like that. A lot of the friends I have in the area, I've got them on Mega Manus. So we're gonna go through, kind of show you how I do it, what I like for setups, and then what I'm gonna do with the Corvette. So strap in, because this one's probably gonna be a long one. The audio might sound a little different. My GoPro got knocked off the top of my stand right here, and it broke my Rode microphone. So now the little connector doesn't really like to stay in. So I ordered a new mic. It'll be here in a couple days. So the audio might be a little off for this video because I'm just using the GoPro Medium mod, but it kind of is what it is. I couldn't stop progress on the car. So I got all the rear suspension off. The only other thing I've got left, the stock lower control arms in the rear are going to stay. I have the adjustable upper control arms from Josiah and FDF Race Shop to put in, but the lower control arms, nobody makes an aftermarket one yet, or if they have, I haven't looked into it, but FDF Fab doesn't, so I'm just going to assume the stock ones are good enough. I have to take the knuckles off, well, not the knuckles, I have to take the hub off, the knuckle, to take the stock e-brake stuff off still, and because I'm going to re-drill all 4 of my hubs using the FDF Race Shop adapter plate. So this basically bolts to the knuckle on the 5x120 pattern, then perfectly lines it up so you can drill holes with a 14mm drill bit for the 5x114 conversion. So looking forward to doing that so I can put all my wheels on finally. And then I got all the front suspension off. I took everything off. I have everything aftermarket. Man, this dry something belt, I swear, it's so weird. I have the FDF Fab Mega Mantis kit for the front. I still take the outer tie rod off. I don't have the updated version Josiah just released, where he basically did a video where he like on the fly made a full heim joint inner and outer tie rod assembly for a C6. So I'm actually going to hit him up and order one of those because I want to put that on this car, but I don't have it here with me currently. So for today, I'm just going to put on the adapter that uses the stock inner tie rod and the FDF Fab outer with the heim joint. And then I've got Josiah's Mega Manus kit, like I said, which has lower control arm, upper control arm. Like, it has everything, knuckle and everything for the front. So the only thing I'm missing are my coilovers, which will be here on Friday. So we're gonna get cranking away on the front of the car here in a minute. I'm gonna actually build the kit off the car on the table and show you guys that and why I set everything where I set it before I put it on the car. So let me get all that going and we'll see you in just a second. Okay, so it's actually the next day. Before I get to the part of the video where I do the setup on the FDF Mega Manus and the rear upper control arms and the toe control and all that, I did finish stripping the car down and I got the hubs separated. I thought it would be wise of me to go ahead and drill the hubs. That way, when I do get all the suspension on, my Fortunato coilovers will be here tomorrow. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep everything, but I wanna be able to put it all on at one time, do a rough alignment, get it on the ground, you know, like basically get it ready to drive so I can run it over. And I'm actually gonna borrow my old job's alignment rack to do the base alignment. Normally I do the alignments on the ground. I have like blocks and strings and camber gauges and toe plates and all kinds of bougie stuff. But I thought for this car, I want to do the base alignment on a rack, just get it set up perfectly for round one and for testing. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill the hubs first, which turned out to be a little bit of an easier process than I thought. I am not an expert machinist by any means, but I do have a friend who's been a machinist for almost 20 years. So I talked to him about it, thought about the easiest way to do this without burning up drill bits, knowing I've got to drill through 4 hubs, which are high tensile steel. So I did order a 14mm cobalt bit off Amazon, but I only bought one. But luckily there is a store locally that stocks them in case this doesn't go well. And then I'm just using my Milwaukee General cobalt infused bits and a Bauer stepper bit from Harbor Freight. So what I actually did was I got this advice from Taylor Ray. This hub's already drilled, but I'm going to show you how I do it, and then I'll show you a time lapse of the next hub just in case. What I've basically been doing is using this to basically mark it and start a pilot hole. That's just enough to dent the top of the steel. Then I come over here to my smaller drill press and I have the stepper bit in, and I go through the first 3 layers of the stepper bit with it. Then I go to a 1/4 inch drill bit to just finalize that, and then I put it back on the big machine and I use the 14mm and I run it all the way through. And the reason I'm doing that is to basically step up the hole size as far as I can before I have to go to the big drill bit, so that the bigger drill bit doesn't have to work as hard or create heat as long. The #1 thing from what he told me that kills drill bits and basically makes this harder to do, because you basically will temper the steel if you get it too hot, is to use this one at the lowest speed possible on mine, which is 400 RPMs, but I can't go that low, so I'm actually on the 800 RPM setting. And basically just not a lot of force, but keep some force on it, and that seemed to work really well. It went right through the hub, no smoke, like butter. Just used a lot of this PB Blaster silicone lubricant, because that's all I have laying around the shop, and some air tool oil, and it went right through. So I'm gonna get the next hub switched over. I'm gonna keep the time lapse on for this hub just so you can see a quick like 30-second clip of how I'm doing it. We'll get all 4 hubs drilled, and then we'll get to setting up the FDF fab. Okay, so it is actually the next night. When I got back from drilling the hubs at Full Lock last night, I basically opted to wait to do any of the suspension stuff until my Fortunato coilovers arrived, which they arrived this morning. So I came in this morning and I put this whole side of the car together, and then I went over back to Full Lock and I drilled my rotors. I had rotors that I thought might work, so I waited to drill the Grand Sport rotors because they're really expensive. Well, depending. If you do like good ones, they're pretty expensive. I didn't want to drill them until I knew if the Evo 8 rotors I already had were going to fit. I had them from a conversion we did to that car like ages ago. So I thought I'd try them before I drilled my current rotors. They didn't work, no big deal. Drilled off all my rotors, now we're here. So I went ahead and put on all of my FDF dual rear caliper stuff. I put on my FDF rear upper control arm, my toe control bracket, and the tow rod. And I've also got my Fortunato 510 series coilover already on the car. I'm gonna film the install of the other side. I just want to go ahead and put this side on in case there was any, I don't want to say issues, but with all kits, there's always like little things you have to do, like no kit's the same. However, this one went on extremely easily. I was really surprised. Like Josiah's pretty much thought of everything. So it's got a super low profile bolt here because you delete the stock tie rod pickup point, but that allows you to get the caliper on with plenty of clearance. It already includes the bolts, which you can see here, to hold the wheel wood on. No big deal there, both calipers on. Everything went right on. And so now I've got adjustable toe control, and I've got 4-piston handbrake on the, or 4-piston calipers on the handbrake, which is gonna be insane. That's a massive caliper just for the handbrake. I've got my toe control set up. So it's got 7 settings. It basically goes from the very top is the least amount of toe, which I believe is basically factory, and I don't think Corvette's towing under compression factory. All the way down, there's 7 total settings, and I believe the bottom one is up to 1 inch of toe gain on compression, which is insane. That's more toe gain than I think I would ever use under any circumstances. I don't think I've ever gone more than 1/4 on each side, but the option's there if I want to. Yeah, this side went together really, really easily. I didn't do an alignment or anything on it yet. I'm basically gonna set up all 4 corners of the car, and then I'm gonna get the Consi's mounted, my Astros mounted tomorrow with some acceleras on them. basically set the full weight of the car and check the ride height, because I haven't set ride height yet. I'm gonna like basically see where the coilovers are at since they came from Fortunato. The height, I measured them with a tape measure in several spots, and they all seem to be about the same height. So I'm just kind of curious to see the height they came at. I'm also not really sure how the height is going to work with these flares. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything mounted and then put the wheels and tires on it and set it down, and we'll see. I'm going to be running an 18 by 10.5 out back with a 285, 35, 18 Accelera 651S. And in the front, I'm gonna try, I have an 18 by 9 plus like 22 or something like that. I have to double check the box. But I'm actually, for the first time ever, gonna try and run a much wider front tire with this car. I'm gonna run a 265, 35, 18 and see how that does. If I don't like it, I'll step back down to a 235, 40, 18. But I've never actually had a car where I could run a bigger front tire, and this car has all the room in the world to be able to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the time lapse up and then interject some clips. We'll go over to the other side, start installing the right rear, and then we'll move on to the front. What's up, guys? So we're moving on from the back. I got the entire back done. I was also able to get some of my beautiful Conseil Astras mounted this morning with my Accelera 651S tires. I'm gonna be running a 285 up back and a 265 up front. So I thought I would show you this one corner of the front, this front left corner of the car before I do a time lapse of me assembling the front right corner of the car. There's really not a whole lot to say about the front. It goes together super easy. It's very self-explanatory. You've got 3 adjustments on the upper control arm. You've got 2 inners for camber and 1 outer. You've got 2 adjustments on the lower control arm, right here for caster and right here for caster. And then you have your inner tie rod pickup point. No biggie right there. The front kit's stupid easy to assemble. It's literally stupid proof. Like, you can't mess it up. I mean, I'll show you what the kit comes like when it's sitting on the table, but it's extremely easy and very self-explanatory. So kit comes like this, basically in a bunch of pieces. You have your front caster arm right here, which attaches right there. These are your camber lockout plates for the front of the car. Well, I have for the front and rear of the car, but this is your tie rod adapter, and then the Heim joint is on the knuckle, which is over there. Knuckles come pre-assembled already, shows you everything goes. These right here are your camber mounts for the body. These thread into here. These bolt to your Corvette. This is your coilover mount. This bolts on here and any of the holes. This has 3 positions. This basically allows you to change your kingpin angle or the inclination angle of your coilover, which will affect your overall wheel ratio and motion ratio, which I'm not going to get into in this video. We'll get into that in the alignment. For the average person, they're going to stick it in the middle and never touch it again. Most people don't even look into what that does. So we'll cover that in the alignment video. But for now, all you need to know is I basically put mine in the center. And then with the knuckles, again, the knuckles come pre-assembled. All you have to do is attach your stock bearing, and don't do what I do and forget to put the brake caliper brackets on. They go on the opposite side of the inner tie rod pickup point, just like so. And then they'll allow you to put your rotor and your stock brake caliper on the kit. Other than that, I mean, the coilovers are very self-explanatory. The coilovers only have 3 bolts, so top one goes through here. I think I do like about Fortunato is they do groove the top ring on their coilover so it sits perfectly in the hole. Let me set the camera down. Well, I can probably just speed through this. Just rip this nut off real quick. Take the nut off. You can see there's a little raised lip right there on the side of the coilover. That little raised lip fits perfectly. It's perfectly inside this little groove in the stock coilover. Then you put the washer and bolt on top, tighten it down. no big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up a time lapse. I'll show you guys assembling the other side of the car. I'll get way more in depth with the kit and how it works and why I do what I'm doing and yada, yada, yada when I go to the alignment, which will probably be, I don't know, 2 or 3 days from now actually, because I'm actually aiming to go to the dyno the first week of April because surprise, surprise, the local racetrack that I basically started my drift career at, if you want to call it that, is actually having a one-time event this season on April 16th to see if it's viable for them to keep doing drift events in the Panhandle. So since we're no longer able to run events at Holt, this is basically the only option for us locally. So the entire Clutch Kickers team, me, Matt, and Austin, and hopefully Mike, if his car's done, we're not sure if that one will be ready to go by then, but if they are, we thought it'd be cool to take all the cars out and kind of start and drive at what got us all started in drifting, or at least got us started here in the Panhandle with drifting. So go out, show some support. Hopefully the local track will keep going. It also gives us a great opportunity to test the Corvette before we leave for LS Fest and we head off to round 1. So I'll set up the time lapse and we'll see you guys on the other side of that. Here she is. I set it up on my alignment blocks just because the lift arms were hitting the ground before the car compressed all the way. So this is where we're at right now. This is not set up. This is like, I bolted the FDF fab kit on, I bolted the coilovers on, just kind of want to see where it was at, got everything situated. And I thought I'd just do like in initial thoughts, anything I thought about along the way with the kit, install, how I think it fits, car, look, all that jazz. So just to recap, I'm running FDF Fab Mega Mantis up front and the FDF Fab rear upper control arm stock lower, their dual rear caliper bracket, their toe gain control kit. I've got Fortunato 510 series coilovers on all 4 corners. Kansai Astros 18x9 plus 22 in the front, 18x10.5 plus 12 in the rear, and I'm running Accelera 651S 285 35 18s in the rear and 265 35 18s up front. And this should give you a good indication of how wide my body kit is, because the Mega Mantis has normally, like on a normal Corvette, a lot of poke, and I'm still probably an 1.5 or 2 inches from hitting the edge of the fender. And in the rear, I'm, probably more than that. Actually a little less in the rear. I'm about 1 inch in the rear. So I do have some spacers here that I'm gonna play with just to kind of see how I want the fitment to be. I don't exactly know how aggressive I can get with it, with the angle up front. So I don't know, we'll just kind of see. I am gonna put the car back up in the air probably tomorrow afternoon and drop the ride height a little bit. We're gonna probably slam it just for the photos after the wrap, but I want to leave a few inches between the top of the tire and the fender, but right now I've got like 7 inches, so I'm probably going to drop the car down about 3 or 4 inches in the front and probably about the same in the rear. So I'm probably going to try and drop it about 3.5 to 4 inches all the way around. I didn't measure how much adjustments left in the Fortunatos, but I'm gonna take a guess and say there's probably a good bit. Hopefully I don't bottom them out. This kit is kind of a weird situation. As far as I know, I'm the first one to use this body kit at all, let alone in drifting. I could only find one other guy who had this kit on his Corvette on YouTube, and he only had the rear and front fenders. He didn't have the full body kit. So he didn't have the front bumper, the lip, and all that jazz, but the fenders are just dumb wide. But I thought the kit looked cool. I thought it looked super aggressive. I thought it'd look great on a drift car. So we're gonna figure out how to make it work. I just don't know how I'm gonna do that yet. But that's where we're gonna end this video. If there's any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to answer any questions about the FDF Fab kit, the Fortunato 510 series coilovers, or my wheel specs, tire specs, all that jazz. I'm an open book. I know there's some guys who don't like to tell you exactly what they're running, what they're gonna run, the alignment specs they're gonna use, blah, 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 blah. I'm more than willing to share the knowledge.